Trojan families and parents. Today I just want to give you a brief update about our reopening plan and a few reminders about our reopening plan. As things constantly change, we wanted to make sure we try to keep you posted on the most up-to-date information. I want to go back and return just briefly to the decisions that we made and looking at our reopening plans. The feedback that we've received, that the Board of Education has received, administrative team has received, has been that our families wanted to go back in person. But while doing so, we wanted to provide remote learning options. So we've been working on that plan, that coming back to school. We've got, for those who have read the reopening plans, we try to be as specific as possible with all the details, and hopefully you found that helpful. We do believe that the majority of parents, and we've seen the majority of students, will be coming back in person with us on September 8th, and so a reminder that we are starting 1 week later on September 8th. And on the other hand, we did want to provide the options through our remote learning to make sure that those who had maybe special medical concerns in coming to school in person, that we had something in place. So I do want to provide a couple reminders about our remote learning plan. A reminder that the option is through the Edgenuity program. Some of you are familiar with Edgenuity who have students in grades 6 through 12. It's what we use for our virtual academy. It's what we used in the spring of last year for our students in grades 6 to 12. We are now implementing a K-5 Edgenuity program. This will be a little bit new for us, so we do have to figure some things out on that, but we are working on that and we'll have the support ready. Do want to remind you that on our website there are demos for each of those grade levels. If you have been interested, we did extend that deadline, and we're looking at that date now to be Monday the 17th. And so those who are still needing to make a decision, we're asking you to make that decision so we can make those plans going forward and get the information out to our parents. Last year, those who did the Edgenuity program in the spring, when we were shut down or did remote learning, that was about 2 to 3 hours a day. I want you to understand that it's going to be more like 4 or 5 hours a day at minimum. It's going to be like a school day. The Edgenuity, they provide the teachers, so they aren't Arcanum teachers, but they're Ohio licensed teachers. There are tutors that are available. Principals will be helping out, and we'll have liaisons. Mr. Gray, who's our virtual academy director, will be helping out in some cases. And then we're also looking at Mrs. Deanna Monin, who is our guidance secretary, will be a liaison for families as well. And then principals will help keep track of some students and help answer some questions. Additionally, I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware, because I've heard this several times, how long is that commitment? That commitment is a semester. The end of the semester is January 22nd. So you choose that option. You're going to be in Edgenuity and in the remote learning until the end of the semester. We are charged per semester. Once we get things, we've made adjustments based on our schedules, class sizes, etc., based on those who are committing to the remote learning. So you make that commitment, you're there for the semester. In the event that school would be forced to go remote learning, and we hope that doesn't happen, those students who started with the Edgenuity program will stick with the Edgenuity program. Those students who started in person at one-to-one will do something different. We learned a lot from last year. We'll be using Schoology for those students who used that before, and also Google Classroom, but it's going to be different. It's going to be the new and improved version. Our teachers have been working hard. In fact, are going to have some continued professional development that will be taking place here in just a couple of weeks. So those who are choosing the remote learning option need to do so by Monday. If after you hear my update and you've read the updates to our plan, and you had chosen that option, but now you want to choose to come to school in person, then you should email the building principal, and we will take you off that list. Once we have that list finalized, and we'll be doing so next week, information will be sent via a one-call group for those specific parents who have chosen that, and we'll also have an email distribution list that will give you additional information, directions, and procedures that you'll need to know in moving forward. Next, I want to address an issue that's been a contentious issue throughout our country, throughout our state, and it has to do with the wearing of facial coverings and face masks. Our initial plan, we were given the option initially by the Department of Health and by our governor to choose how we wanted to implement that. We heard loud and clear from the majority of our parents that that they wanted that to be a family's choice and a family decision. So our plan initially did indicate that for students, that was going to be a parent's choice. That has now been taken out of our hands in regards to those decisions and is now a mandate. So we will follow the mandate as required. There are several things that I want to go over as far as what that's going to look like. Number one, we're going to provide one mask and one facial shield for each student. The shields will stay here at school. That'll allow us to better manage that, making sure that we can keep those clean, making sure that those aren't lost, they're not broken. So if you want to provide a face mask or a face shield for your child, you're likely going to have to provide additional masks. And you can also do so for shields. I would say this: the shield offers an option for students and also for faculty that may be a better option for your child other than using a mask. But again, we're providing those for during the day. So in transition periods, you'll need to provide a mask, especially when they're entering school and then exiting school. We had held off on providing the update because we did not get the actual order from the governor. And I do have the order in front of me today. On our website, there will be a link to that order so you can see the specifics about facial coverings. But let me try to summarize when students will need to wear a mask or facial covering and when they're not required to. So students who are riding a bus will need to be wearing their masks. Students, when they're entering and exiting school, because they're in large groups, will need to be wearing a mask or, again, the face shield. Entering, exiting school, in classroom, except there's going to be some exceptions that I will talk about. Also when they're engaged in learning, so on the bus, etc. Not required when they're actively eating. So we are going to have things set up where half of our students will be eating in the elementary gym. We'll have tables set up there, the other half in the cafeteria. When you're in line, students need to have their shields or masks on. When they're sitting down in their seats, and students will be seated every other seat or 6 2-hour-long tables, then they can set their masks aside and go ahead and eat. While students are out at recess, and Mrs. Peachy's been working, we're going to be separating our students at recess more than what we had done before. Those students will not need to wear their masks at recess. In physical education class, most times in PE class, they will not be required to wear them. There'll be times in music and band, which if they're actively engaged in certain activities, such as playing instruments, they will not be required to wear masks, but they may have to in some other circumstances. It's imperative that we have some common sense, what we feel is common sense and practical sense when it comes to the wearing of masks. The expectations are that students enter school and exit school, they're not going to have a mask on all day. So what we're asking our administrators and our teachers to do is either schedule some outdoor learning time or schedule some time within class when students are distanced and sitting at their seats that they can take their masks off. For some, depending on the age and classroom they're in, that might be more scheduled. In other cases, it will be less, and there'll be circumstances and situations that will be discussed by the teachers. So the intent is we're going to follow the mandate. We're required to follow the mandate. However, we want to be sensible in our approach to doing so. Now, because it's something that is mandated, I was asked the question: how does this fall into compliance of school and rules? It's like the other rules that are set up in school. Students are asked to follow the rules, or there are consequences and potential insubordination. Now you say the word insubordination, and suddenly lights go off, and people are concerned about it. We want to be sensible again. So providing reminders, asking them to put them back on in the situations where they're required to, and then again giving them opportunities to take breaks from having them, and we will manage that like we manage our other day-to-day activities and situations. Did want to address, there are exemptions provided in the director's order. And I'm just going to go ahead and read those exemptions as they're stated. An individual has a medical condition, including respiratory conditions that restrict breathing, mental health conditions, or a disability that doesn't require wearing a facial covering. That can be specific or general. Those who believe they meet those medical conditions will have to have something on file from from their physician that we have in place. What I would tell you is that in a lot of these situations, I've got both of my kids have allergies. In some cases, sometimes the allergies are pretty bad. I'm going to tell them that's going to be if it's a day where your allergies are really bad, put on the face shield instead of the face mask. So I think the face shield provides an alternate to that. However, we can't just have somebody say, well, my kid's got a medical condition. It's going to require a physician's note. And we've been told by physicians that depending on that, it's not going to be just an open, we're going to provide that note. But that's on your physician. We got to have record of that, and we'll do our best to manage that. There are going to be situations with students with disabilities, whether they're impaired or in situations in classrooms. It could be one-on-one situations or small groups where dictating is important from the teacher to the student in speech class. In these situations, we do have plexiglass that's going to be used in those. So if we can't use a face shield because the face mask won't work, we'll try a face shield or the plexiglass. And so we'll have those available as well. As I talked about, individuals who are actively participating in outdoor recess or physical activity, again, trying to maintain social distance when we're doing these activities as well. For our athletes, we release that same information. So actively engage in practices and scrimmage, they don't have to. When they're on the sidelines, they're going to be asked to do that. The individual who's seated and actively consuming food or beverage, which we've talked about that at lunch. Where students and staff can maintain distancing of at least 6 feet and removal of the facial covering is necessary for instructional purposes. So I kind of addressed that a little bit. There are going to be times for instructional purposes. Spanish class, first graders and kindergartners who are learning to read and doing through dictation, we'll have some alternatives set up and will not have to wear a mask during that time. Students who are able to maintain a distance of 6 feet or more and mask break is deemed necessary by the educator supervising the educational setting. So that's where we're going to either build in some breaks or within reason during a classroom when students are learning, be able to take those masks off. So again, there's some latitude there and some things that we can do with a sensible approach. An individual who's alone in an enclosed space or such as an office, which typically is not a student, but it could be our staff members, myself included, or our teachers when they're working in their classroom and the students are at specials. And finally, when established sincerely held religious requirement exists that does not permit a facial covering. And so that would be something that would have to be addressed on a one-to-one basis. This order is in effect until further noted or until they take off. So I say that because at some point in the first semester, if things change and that order is no longer a mandate and back to a recommendation, then we will again talk as a Board of Education administration and seek some input and likely go back to our original plan if we are able to, and that original plan would be it's a choice. So we're hopeful that we're in that situation, and just wanted to be clear that we would go back to that the original intentions if we're able to do so. So folks, I know that's a lot to try to take in. Again, the plan on our website has been updated, so if you click on that plan, there's also the Q&A document that will provide updates as much as possible. We do have information that's been available in regards to our open houses, and so that's going to look a little different. Field trips, I know there's been comments about field trips. Majority of our field trips have been in the spring, and so we're hopeful that those will still exist. We are looking for outdoor field trips in the elementary. We've had groups that go uptown, and we'll hope that we can do some of those, whether it's the walking field trips or the Broomballs Fruit Farm. So we'll continue to try to do some of those things. But things will look a little bit differently. I hope that you have confidence that you saw in the things that we were able to do last spring. Our teachers and our administrators did some really special things when times get tough. So they're already thinking about how we can address all those things to make it a great start for the first of the year. I've got 2 kids that are coming. I'm more than comfortable with my kids being in school. I know the teachers are going to do a fantastic job. I know the principals are going to do a fantastic job. And I'm ready to get the kids back. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send me an email, give me a phone call. Same thing with our principals. We hope that we can be clear in what our expectations are and clear on what our operations are going to be during this time. So together we'll get through this. So give me a call if you have any questions. We appreciate all that you do and all your support as parents. Go Trojans.